almost half of us who live in America say we're afraid to fly. And that's why I am so excited about our conversation today with Captain Kyle. He flies 737s and he loves doing it. Welcome to Spirit 1053. How are you, Kyle?
Hey, Erica, I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm looking forward to our chat here. Okay, Dial a Pilot. This feels like a dream come true, Kyle, because I really wrestled with the fear of flying for probably the first half of my life. So who came up with
Really?
this idea? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so I came up with the idea, and it all came from a bunch of conversations with my sister-in-law, who's been afraid of flying. And her fear kind of came on later in life. We talked about the turbulence. We talked about the different airplane types. I've taken her flying in small airplanes, all of those things. And when my wife and I moved to San Francisco, we started making all these friends that were not in the aviation world. And I was just shocked at how many of them were afraid of flying. And so eventually it kind of came to me that, like, wow, there's so many questions out there that people just don't know where to find the correct information. And so their brains are kind of filling in this gap that is not actually, based in any fact on what's happening on an airplane. So I talked to a bunch of my friends that are aviation folks, and I said, would you guys want to organize ourselves and start taking phone calls for people that, have what we call aviophobia or aerophobia? It's kind of used interchangeably to, just allow people access to somebody that knows kind of what goes on behind that flight deck door and just kind of provides that human element. That the term we keep using now is humanizing that flight deck door. So that was kind of the whole goal, is just to really be able to connect with people, answer their questions, explain to them what's going on. What are the pilots actually doing during turbulence? Is turbulence dangerous? Can the airplane just fall out of the sky? All of those questions that the people kind of told themselves a story on. We're here to answer those and really kind of dispel the myths of aviation, if you will.
I love what you said, because we do tell ourselves stories. It's like your heart jumps a little bit, your stomach
Yeah.
sinks when you feel the turbulence. So let's start there, Kyle. Let's talk about turbulence. What is happening when we feel that stuff?
Totally. So for those folks that are afraid of flying, you may have heard of the Jello reference, or potholes in the sky, just like a road has. Those references work for some people, but they don't quite work for everybody. And the way that I really like to describe turbulence is the Earth and the atmosphere is this living, breathing organism. And so the air flows around the Earth much the way that water flows through a river. It has to go around rocks. It goes over rocks. As it interacts with the shore, it kind of slows down and causes a little bit of choppiness, those sort of things. So the metaphor that I always like to draw is, as the air is making its way around the Earth, it's going to run into other air. It's going to run into, mountains, those sort of things. And that's a lot of what the turbulence actually is. And so up high, when air is running from right to left, and then there's another area that's coming from another direction, as they hit each other, that's called shear turbulence. We can actually affect how much of that we're feeling by changing altitude. So that's what we'll do as the pilots. Down low, flying into a place like Denver, what we have is more turbulence caused by the mountains. And so what we call that is a rotor turbulence. And that's essentially, water moving over a rock in a river. Convective turbulence is another one. And that's just kind of the uneven heating and cooling of the Earth. Hot air rises, cool air sinks. And as we go through those areas of different temperatures, if you will, we actually will feel the airplane kind of adjust to those different areas. And that's another type of turbulence. So those are kind of the three main ones that we're experiencing. They do differ in intensity. That's when we'll talk to the passengers. We'll turn the seatbelt sign on. We'll talk to the flight attendants and ask them to take their jump seats. And that's all out of an abundance of caution of, we don't want people falling over in the aisles and bonking heads with each other and so on and so forth.
So as a pilot, you are not up in the cockpit panicking when you tell us to fasten our seatbelts.
No, not at all. What we're really doing in those moments is taking a look around it. We have what's called an electronic flight bag, which is a fancy term for an iPad. And it has all these really, really good apps on there that predict turbulence. And it actually, our accelerometers on the iPads will record turbulence and uplink them to all the pilots' iPads. And so we're looking at those and saying, okay, we're at 32,000 feet right now. It looks like 34,000 feet is smoother. Let's make a request to the air traffic control. Let's climb to that altitude. And it's a very calm, calculated, choreographed dance of, really the big idea here is we just want people to be comfortable. And, being in those little seats and having your arms kind of compressed and someone else is taking the armrest is not comfortable. So we want to get to that smooth air, let people up, use the restroom, go ask for a coffee, those sort of things.
Oh, that's so helpful. Kyle, how fulfilling is it to you to have these conversations with people and to alleviate their fears?
Yeah, it's so amazingly fulfilling, which has been such a pleasant thing about doing this service. And I'll speak on all of the pilots' behalves that work with us here. This is such a passion for us. We love aviation. We've loved it since we were kids. It's so fun to go to work and, fly these airplanes. And so it's really cool to be able to connect with people and share that passion and hopefully empower them to travel and, travel fearlessly, if you will. But it's really fun to connect with these people and, learn more about their lives and what happened in the past that, maybe makes them afraid to travel. So it's kind of funny. I feel like I've made true friends over this process of actually interacting with these folks. It's been totally fulfilling.
I bet. So did you always know you wanted to be a pilot?
I always wanted to fly. That changed a bunch over the course of my life. I wanted to fly helicopters for the Coast Guard at some point. And then ultimately, when I went to school, I had this just amazing mentor take me under her wing, and she guided me into the airline industry. I am just so grateful for her. So it was a very happenstance meeting that really changed the course of my career and led me to this amazing job.
Wow. Well, every day when I stand behind the microphone, I still get a rush. Do you get that feeling during takeoff still?
That's awesome. That's awesome. I do. And where I really actually get it is when we start pushing back and starting engines. I think that's really, really fun. And it's just cool. All of a sudden you have this, 80,000 pounds of thrust. Now the 737 is less than that for the pilots that are listening. But, it's really cool to push back and hear those engines start and, start doing all of our kind of flight control checks and getting everything ready. It's just this really cool feeling of, wow, we get to go fly this 200,000 pound airplane into the sky and, take all these people where we're going. And it's really, really cool.
You must love having kids in the cockpit and giving them a little mini tour.
100%. Oh yeah. We flip the light switch on, we show them all the alarms and bells and it's fun to watch their faces light up when we do that. It's a kid in a candy store for all of us, really.
Absolutely. Well, is there somebody who has been helped so far, Kyle? Somebody who's overcome the fear of flying yet?
So the feedback that we're getting is a lot of people are saying that they feel really empowered to fly.
Wow.
And so that's really what we're trying to do there. And, I'm not sure that entirely getting over the fear of flying is possible in, just a 15, 20-minute phone conversation. But I think we're definitely getting people along that track. But for those folks that do have that true aviophobia, which is, about 5% of the population, our service has partnered with other services that have been kind of industry leaders in this since 1982. And we guide people that direction if they really, really have that like deep-seated phobia, fear that needs an intervention that's a little bit farther than just what the pilots can do in kind of explaining things. But people have reported back to us, to answer your question, that they do feel a lot more comfortable in flying and, they're not getting that panicky feeling and turbulence because they actually have the context of what's going on.
I love it. Well, Captain Kyle from dialapilot.com, thanks for hanging out with us today on Spirit 105.3.
Erica, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.